Hi, in today's video we're going to be looking at converting a photograph into a digital image using halftoning. Today we're going to be looking at halftoning, and I'm going to show you what that even is, what halftoning is. But before we start, I'd like you to do a few things for me, please. We're going to change some of the look of Photoshop to make it a little bit more like how it used to be, and also to make things easier for moving documents around. If you use a PC at home, some of these options you can't change. It's only if you're using a Mac, which I use. So, to start with, we're going to go and get rid of this grey panel at the back here, so that you can see your desktop underneath, and you can move your documents around a little bit easier. So what I'd like you to do, to start with, is go to Window, and all the way down the bottom here is Application Frame. It's selected. If we take that off, you'll be able to see the desktop underneath, so I can move around files underneath, go back to Photoshop, open it up. The second thing I want you to do is get rid of the documents opening as tabs. I want the documents to be able to open as separate images that are separated from each other and not docked. So you go to Photoshop, Preferences, Interface, and this is the screen you're presented with. There's a few things I want you to uncheck. So one of them is open documents as tabs. We don't want to open it as tabs. And the other one is underneath that, enable floating document window docking. I don't want you to dock windows. It gets a little bit annoying when the pictures dock to each other and they kind of lock to each other. I can show you that in a second anyway, so you can see it. So if we uncheck that, and OK, so we're ready to go. We're ready to do some half-toning. Half-toning is basically it's a conversion of an image to make it into a grid of dots. So you'll have seen this kind of thing if you look at newspapers or Roy Lichtenstein prints, you know, these kind of like old-fashioned pop art prints. If you look at a photo in a newspaper, if you look really closely, the photo is actually made up of tiny dots that your eyes basically, it's called spatial integration. It means that your eyes can blend these details together to make an overall picture. So what we want to do is take a normal picture and give it those dots, give it a little bit of a stylistic edge to it. So if you wanted to do something about that was looking at, you know, if your message was about technology, or it was talking about printing, or you just basically wanted to give something a more of an interesting feel rather than just a straightforward photograph, this is something you could use. But I'd want it to be justified. You know, how was it going to change the feel of an image? Let's get going with it. What do we need to do to start with? You've done this before. We did it last week, and you should be practicing. We need a new document. So we go to File, New. This is the presets you get. Remember, if it doesn't look like this, you need to go to International Paper. This should be set to either RGB or CMYK. We're going to change this in a minute, but you'll see why. So, International Paper, A4 RGB, 300 pixels per inch. Okay, here's your new document. What we need to do to begin with is to put some gradient colours and some layers of that down first, just to give ourselves some nice background. So we're going to use the gradient tool. If we go into this box here in the top left, if you can't see, let me just close this. If you can't see the gradient tool, you might see this instead. If you notice, there's the small arrow. Remember on the last tutorial that we did, I showed you that means that there's other tools nestled underneath. So if you can see a paint bucket, click and hold, and you'll see the gradient tool. Then to add colours to the gradient, we go to the top here, and we've got some presets there and then some that I've already put in. So what we do is just click on the little roof of the house here. If you look at this little house thing here, click on the roof and it'll go black, so you know it's selected, and this is the colour that's being placed here. So click in that box, and then you can use the slider down the side to change the hue and the colours and stuff. And we can make that, I don't know, let's go and make it a green. Okay, that. And then from green we'll go to blue, like there, and then from blue we'll go to pink, like that. You can have whatever colour you want, really don't mind. We'll have a new layer in the layers palette, so just click this new layer button there, create new layer, And then what we do is, these are the different gradient tools that you can use. I want you to play around with these in your own time. This one just does a basic linear gradient, like that. If I start and make it smaller, this is how long the gradient is going to last for, how long I stretch this line out. So if I only do a small one, that's what it looks like. If I do it there, that's what it'll look like. If I do the whole document, it will take the whole gradient through, nice and even, like that. That looks not too bad. Try these. This is a gradient. This is a radial gradient, which means it'll do it in a circle. The colours will go through a circle. This one's kind of like, I'm not sure what it's called actually. It's called a angle gradient, which makes it look like it's a pyramid or something. Ooh, that looks nice. Looks like the sound barrier. Or we can go for one of these ones. These gradients make great tubes, and if you want to make like metal tubing, you can use that. That looks alright as well. A horizon or something. Don't know what that one does. Never seen it before. Never used it. That's what it looks like. If you want to do some trippy stuff, then use that. You can go it that way if you want. We can go it that way. Let's do that. So anyway, get yourself a nice background going. Brilliant. So now we need to, I've said so too many times. Let's open up the Halftone tutorial images. So we'll drag that straight onto Photoshop. It should be on your desktop that you've downloaded from Moodle. We'll open that. So these are your source images. What we need to do is open up another document, new. It's A4 RGB. Let's open that. Go onto the Halftone images folder with the images in. Let's take the robot, drag that onto your new document. We can minimize that by pressing the little amber button there, and we'll come back to you later. Use your move tool, reposition your robot. Let's free transform it, so you can go edit, free transform there, or Apple or Command T. Use Shift and Alt to make it grow from the middle. Double click to place it. There we go. Brilliant. Yes, I'm a robot. So what we're going to do, we now need to make the image grayscale. So image, mode, grayscale. This is going to make it a halftone. We can flatten the image as well this time. We don't need to keep the layers on this document just yet. So let's flatten the image, discard. We've got a grey picture. Let's change the contrast a little bit, make it a tiny bit more contrasty. Make sure use legacy selected, tiny bit more contrasty, not too much. Turn the brightness a touch as well, like that. So what we're going to do now is turn it into a halftone. To do that, we need to go to Image, Mode, Bitmap, just there. And here it says Method. It might be selected to something else. You need it to say halftone screen, just there. Then we'll OK that. And now you get this dialog box. And yours is probably going to say something different. I want you to play around with these later on when you've got time. But at the moment I'm going to set mine to 15 frequency of lines per inch and an angle of 42. And the shape round. We'll try some of those and see what else happens. If you press OK, that's what happens. You get this spotty image. Wow, how did you do that? So let's undo that by pressing Apple, Alt and Z. Put it back to the black and white, and this time image mode bitmap. I'm going to change it to, we're going to keep it as the halftone screen, and this time I'm going to change it to diamond. Let's see what the diamond does. Let's zoom in. Oh look, it's little tiny diamonds. Hi, I'm a diamond. I quite like that. So we've got this kind of weird technical style old-fashioned robot that's been half-toned. What we're going to do now is cut out the robot from the background and copy and paste it. So I'm just going to quickly work away with the pen tool that we used last week. Remember, try and do it in as few lines as possible. We're going to get rid of that shadow at the bottom there. Just going to go around his feet. I'll speed this up, so I'm going to stop talking. Okay, so I'm now going to close the path. I've worked my way all the way around it. If you noticed, you probably can just about see the little circle appearing to show you closing the path. I've closed the path. I'm going to select and I'm going to move it across the side. I'm going to press Control C to copy. Then I'm going to have my new document. I'm going to press Control V to paste it. There we go. We've got ourselves a robot. Play around with the blending options here in the layers palette. So play around with these, remember. So we could do multiply to make it all the white disappear. That looks nice. We could go to colour burn. That looks kind of rubbish. Linear burn, what does that do? That's not really anything different. Darker colour, that looks alright. Lighten, this will make it go white. Screen, as if it's screen printed it. Overlay, gives you this kind of nice colour all the way through it. That sort of stuff. Vivid light, that looks alright. Difference, colour. Colour's rubbish. Go back to normal on this. And play around with the layers as well. So what happens if we bring the robot layer underneath the colour layer and change the colour layer to colour. There you go, it tints the image. And if we play around with the brightness and contrast of the image, turn the brightness up a little bit. The contrast up a little bit, down a little bit, like that. You get to colour your robot. But what we're going to do is put it the other way around, put that to normal, and put that to multiply. Now we can tint the image as well, so we go to image, adjust. So you can either press Apple in U, Command in U, and you get this, or you can go the long way around and go image, adjust, hue and saturation, same way. And then we're going to colorise. So press the little colorise checkbox, and then we can lighten it a little bit, and then use the saturation to change the colour. And we can add light colours to it. Wow, wow! Oh my word, that's brilliant! Just like that. What I'd like you to do now, that's basically how we do halftone. Looks quite cool. Play around with the settings, play around with the halftone settings, and I want you to cut out all of your other images exactly the same as this. Follow your handout and create me a nice little picture with some lips, a building. What we can do, I'll show you a little trick that we can do to reuse bits. I'm going to resize that, make that smaller. Then we're going to duplicate the layer, so we're going to copy the layer. And the way you do that is you click on the layer and you drag it down to the new layer icon on the layers palette. It's right next to the bin. So instead of creating a new layer on its own, you're going to duplicate the layer by dragging that on top. And you've got two of them. Let's move that away from the other one. Free transform it. So Command and T or edit free transform. Free transform. I'm going to press Shift and Alt and make it big, big, big like this. Double click. Now we've got two of them. And I'm going to change the opacity a little bit to make it a bit see-through. And then I'm going to drag another one of that one. I'm going to press Apple T. I'm going to move the document window open a little bit so I can see the edges. Make that smaller. Bring that across there. So it looks like some wallpaper or something. Change the blending options to overlay. Look at that, man. Look at that. It's looking so good. I feel like Jedward. Okay, there you go. I've got myself some robots. I would like now to see all the other bits on there and keep practicing. Until next time, I love you, my beefy babies. Bye.